Hello girls, I hope you're staying safe at home. To continue with the skin chapter, today we are going to learn about the sweat glands which you find in the skin. Now each sweat gland is a very simple coiled tube, okay, and deep inside you have the secretory part which secretes the perspiration together with the nitrogenous waste, and an excretory part, that is the part which comes out to the surface of the skin. So the excretory part runs upward to open on the surface. Okay, so the outer openings are known as the sweat pores. The total number in the body is about 2 million. That means we have about 2 million sweat pores in our body. And human beings which live in hotter countries have more sweat pores, because more hot it is, they will perspire more, and then the people belonging to the colder one. The secretory part of the sweat gland, what it does, it absorbs fluid perspiration from the surrounding cells and the blood vessels or capillaries of the dermis, and then it passes it on to the excretory sweat duct, okay, the duct which carries the sweat and then pours it out onto the surface through the sweat pores. Okay, now sweating, is also known as perspiration, goes on at all times in very, very small quantities, in minute quantities, incipient or invisible perspiration, that is, you do not see. So this perspiration which takes place all the time in minute quantities that you do not see is known as incipient or invisible perspiration. And sometimes, of course, when you do some exercise or when it is hot, perspiration will be given out in large quantities. So the main function of sweating is to lose body heat by evaporation. What is the main function of sweat? Is actually to cool down the body. Now sweat consists of about 99% water, maximum water, 0.2 to 0.5% salts, mainly sodium chloride, that is the salt that we eat, and very, very less traces, 0.08% traces of urea. So the urea loss through the sweat is about 1% of the total urea excreted by the body. So 99% maximum of the urea is excreted out through the urine, okay, by the excretory system, which is the excretory organ, which is the kidney. Now sometimes you sweat when it is not hot, that is known as cold sweat. Okay, it is due to psychic influences, when you are very scared, when you are frightened, and when you are very, very nervous. So sweating may also accompany nausea, that means you will feel giddy, okay, and severe pain due to loss of body salts, because the body salts will be lost and then you will undergo severe pain. The next derivative of the skin are the mammary glands. Now mammary glands, also known as the milk gland, and you will be surprised to know that these are modified sweat glands. Okay, and of course these glands are present both in males and females, but in males they persist in a rudimentary state, that means it does not have any work, whereas in females at puberty, you all know, they enlarge to form a pair of breasts. Now you know that each breast at the center has a conical projection called a nipple. There are about 15 to 20 milk ducts which open on the nipple. Okay, and this milk duct continues inwards in a branching manner. It goes inwards and it branches and rebranches to join a cluster of 15 to 20 lobes of the mammary glands. Now what is the activity of the mammary glands? It is related to reproductive hormones. Okay, the reproductive hormone is known as prolactin, please keep this in mind, and of course pregnancy. And a woman produces milk only when she is a mother, when she has to feed her baby. All of you have grown up since you were a baby, and all of you must have had your mother's milk. Okay, so the milk secreted by the mammary glands is highly nutritious for the newborn baby. For almost 6 months, the baby drinks the mother's milk and the baby becomes nice, healthy, and fat. Okay, so there you can see, from as you go backwards from the tip, that is the nipple, there are milk ducts going backwards in a branching manner, and then it is going and joining the mammary glands where the milk is produced. Next is meibomian glands. Okay, so these are modified sebaceous glands which open on the margins of the eyelids. Okay, they secrete oil. The secretion is oily and it serves to lubricate the margins of the lid so that the tears does not overflow. If you know, your eyes are always filled with tears. Okay, it acts as a lubricant, and so that when you keep on blinking your eyes, there is no wear and tear of your eyes. So what is there on the lids? The meibomian gland secretes an oil which lubricates the margin of the lid and does not allow the overflow of tears. And of course, you know, tears overflow only when you cry. When there are lots, then there is lots of tears in your eyes. Okay, next is ceruminous glands. These are modified, again, sebaceous glands only. Okay, remember, meibomian and ceruminous glands are modified sebaceous glands, whereas mammary glands are modified sweat glands. Okay, so these are modified sebaceous glands, and where do you find? You find it in the auditory canal. Auditory means where you hear, that is your ears. Okay, and they secrete wax like substances called cerumen, also known as earwax. Okay, and again, it has a function. It lubricates and protects the delicate eardrum, which is the first to vibrate when you hear. You'll be learning more about it in the part 2 of this book. Okay, and it also protects the delicate eardrum from dust particles and germs. Before I move on to the skin and heat regulation of the body, this week you will not get any assignment in biology. Instead, you will do an assignment in chemistry. Okay, that is, you are going to draw the orbit structure of covalent molecules, that is, of hydrogen, chlorine, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen chloride, water, ammonia, carbon tetrachloride, and methane, and submit it on Saturday. All mammals, including humans, are warm-blooded. That means they have a constant body temperature, and they are endothermal. Endothermal means body heat is generated from inside. Even the birds are endothermal. Okay, so they have a more or less constant body temperature, as I have already told you, even if it is very cold or very hot outside. So the body temperature of cold blooded organisms, which are known as ectothermal, fluctuates with the temperature outside. If it becomes cold, the body temperature drops down. If it becomes hot, the body temperature also shoots up. Okay, so this means they must escape if it is too hot or if it is too cold. So that is why they hibernate, that is known as the winter sleep, and they estivate, that is the summer sleep, as in the case of frogs, because they have to maintain their body temperature. Okay, so the two terms, ectothermal and endothermal, cold-blooded and warm-blooded, okay, has been substituted nowadays by a new term which is known as poikilothermal. Poikilo means varying, different. Okay, and homeothermal. Homeo means the same. Okay, so nowadays it is also known as poikilothermal and homeothermal. Now, human body temperature, you know, it is 37 degrees Celsius, okay, in the mouth, when you take your temperature in the mouth, and it is 1 degree Celsius higher in the rectum and 1 degree Celsius lower in the armpits. So our body temperature sometimes may show a little variation, difference between 0.3 degrees Celsius to 0.5 degrees Celsius during 24 hours. Okay, and remember, children, it is lowest in the early morning and it is highest in the late afternoon. Now, you know, if there is a rise in body temperature, that means you have fever and you are sick, and if there is a fall in temperature, that is also dangerous. And a suitable temperature, you know, it is always known as the optimum temperature. Between 35 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius is essential for normal body activities, especially for the working of the enzymes inside our body. Now, if the temperature is lowered, the enzymes, the working of the enzymes becomes slow. Okay, and if the temperature is very high, it will destroy the enzymes. Now, heat production, there are many sources of heat production in our body. How is heat produced in our body? First is chemical reactions that takes place in all body cells, especially in the liver, by oxidation of glucose. When glucose is broken down by means of oxygen, so that also produces heat. Most of the heat produced in our body comes from the activity of our muscles, when our muscles work together. Okay, that time, that is when you run, when you're doing physical exercise, you'll feel hot. Why? Because the muscles are working. So that is why when you run around on a cold day, you will feel hot, and when you are running on a hot day, it will make you feel more hotter. So a small amount of heat even comes from ingestion of hot foods and beverages. That is, during cold winters, when we drink hot tea or coffee, that time we feel warm. Okay, now how is heat lost in our body? Heat is lost in our body by first through the skin. About 85% of the body heat is lost through the skin by convection, conduction, radiation, and evaporation of sweat. Heat is lost in the warm air, which is breathed out from the lungs. When you breathe out, you are breathing out warm air. So this way, heat is lost from the body. So this loss in warm air, you can easily breathe in your hands, breathe in on your hands, on the back of your hands. Open your mouth wide, you can feel the heat on your skin. That is why when you are feeling cold during the winters, you will blow into your hands with your mouth, because you are breathing out warm air. Okay, and some heat is also lost during vaporization of water from the lungs. When you breathe out, you give out water vapor. That you see especially during the winters. It is easily visible when you breathe out water. Okay, and heat is also lost through urine in feces. These substances are eliminated at body temperature. Okay, and food, heat is also lost when cold food, water, or cold beverages are taken into the body. Just like when you drink hot food or hot beverages, you are increasing the heat in the body. Similarly, you will lose heat when you take in cold food, water, or cold beverages. So the skin is responsible for regulation of temperature of our body. Remember children, the principal heat regulating center, main heat regulating center, you'll find it in the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is a part of the brain. Forebrain means the brain which lies in the front. Okay, so this part acts like a thermostat. You know what a thermostat is, which regulates temperature on electronic devices. Okay, so if the body tends or tries to cool below the normal temperature, it switches on or speeds up the heat producing processes of the body. And when the body tries to get overheated, if it is getting overheated, what happens? It accelerates the cooling process and switches off the heat producing processes. So this way the temperature of the body is maintained. So if you are about to overheat your body, what happens? The cooling process is switched on, okay, and the heat producing processes are switched off. And if the body is cooling down below the normal temperature, then it speeds up the heat producing processes. Now what happens in cold weather? When the temperature is very low outside, the blood vessels gets narrowed. Okay, it becomes narrow, which is known as vasoconstriction. So what happens as a result? The blood supply to the skin gets reduced, it gets less, and then there is less loss of heat by convection, conduction, and radiation. So if there is less blood coming to the surface of the skin, what will happen? There is less loss of heat, and also less loss of it through vaporization of sweat. Sweat will also not be lost. Now as the blood supply to the skin is reduced, the sweat glands also secrete very less sweat, because there is no like lots of blood is not coming to the skin, and as a result sweat will not be able to be produced. So this is a very natural method to conserve the body heat. Now when vasoconstriction occurs, it makes the person look pale or bluish because of the reduced blood supply to the skin. That is when you feel very cold, a person becomes very blue if the person is in cold water for a long time. Why? Because it is the way the body is, like, keeping the heat inside the body. So in the same way, the heat production is increased metabolic rate. So the heat production in the body is increased by the increased metabolic rate and even by muscular activity, which is sometimes in the form of shivering. If you have noticed, children, when you take a bath in the winters when it is very cold, after the bath or when you open your clothes, you start shivering. Why are you shivering? Because the muscles are moving, which makes the body hotter. Like, not so hot, of course, like it is preserving the heat in the body. It is increasing the heat production in the body. Now in hot weather, when the outside temperature is high, or when sometimes, when it is hot and then you are playing a game or something, there is lots of production of heat inside the body. So as a heat must be lost from the body to cool down the body. So what happens? The blood supply to the skin is increased by dilation of the blood vessels, that is vasodilation. Dilation means it becomes bigger. Okay, so more blood will flow towards the skin. As a result, there is loss of heat by radiation and also by vaporization of sweat, which is now produced in very large quantities because there is lots of supply of blood to the skin. Okay, so and then there is movement of the air, breeze. Sometimes when you feel hot, you fan yourself, isn't it? So air movements of the over the body helps to speed up the evaporation of sweat. That is why fans, which do not cool the air in the room, have a cooling effect on our body. Actually, the fan does not cool the room, but when you wash your face or when you're sweating and you sit under the fan, you feel cool. Why? Because the water is evaporating away from your body. When it evaporates away from the body, it takes away heat from the body. Okay, you must have heard about heat stroke or sunstroke. Okay, so this is a condition in which sweat production is not able to keep pace with the evaporation in very hot winds. Okay, so this results in the rise in body temperature, which sometimes may be fatal. That is, a person will die. So drinking a lot of water and taking a little more of salt in summer is a good precaution against sunstroke. So you need to drink lots of water and you need to take a little more salt during the summer. Okay, so that you will not get any heat stroke.